This episode is the classic fire, aim, ready. I'll tell you that
Yes, it is.
because you just hit the button like you just did. Like we didn't even talk about it.
You had an idea. I didn't need to hear a single extra word. I wanted to get rolling. Let's maximize our time.
God, I feel like a good salesman today. I hardly had to work you for that one.
This topic is one that comes up constantly when we coach athletes who are not lifelong athletes, people who find sport or running later in life and they have no real backdrop to view running through. Like compare it
Mm.
to how should that relationship feel? And as a result, I don't know if they read too far into things or what, but they don't always have a accurate picture of what the life of an athlete looks like.
I would also argue that even if you are a lifelong runner, like ourselves, this is super pertinent, even for those people. Do we need to jump? Do we not want to like catch up with each other, BS a little bit first? You were
Right to it
telling
today.
me, well, no, let's get to it in a second, but people are invested in how things are going for you and me. And we just talked for 5 minutes quick before hitting the record button that you're still progressing with your fitness. You're still continuing to ramp up your running. You started daydreaming a little again, meaning like, hey, you're building some workouts together. So it's a nice place.
I ran for 62 minutes on Saturday, which is my longest run yet. It was broken into 320 and change minute intervals, but interval only in the sense of it was a time duration. It was easy running. I think I averaged like 850 for the run pace on the trail.
Hmm?
Just chose the softest, smoothest, straightest trail I could find and went back and forth on it. 3 by 20 minutes. Felt good after.
You guys don't have snow down there yet?
We had some snow and then it immediately left. And then last night, actually, it rained and now it's cold again. Not terribly
Hmm.
cold, but colder.
Yeah, we had snowed. It all kind of melted, rained off as well. So we're back to brown and cold, and the ground's just firm, and it's kind of gross.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so you're not going to put anything on your calendar, though, right? You're going to just let the fitness progression come, and then make decisions when it feels right to make decisions.
Yeah, if it were up to me, I would put an ultra probably spring or summer on my calendar right now as a reason to build overall strength and durability. But it's not up to me anymore. With kids' sports schedules, they don't come out early enough to plan long term. And we saw it
Yeah.
last year. I signed up for a high rocks, and then it became apparent halfway through that Braden, his race schedule is going to coincide with that. So, no, I'm not signing up for anything yet. Try to
To
keep
some,
building.
to some, it may seem silly. Coming back from an injury, haven't been able to run much. Why on earth would this idiot, Brakken Kraker, pick an ultra? Why wouldn't he pick a 5K or let's say a DecaFit, something much shorter, right?
Yeah.
Logic would tell you, like, well, that makes sense. Why would you go for something so long if you can't run much right now? But I would argue that um, building durability and duration a lot of times is actually less risky than trying to sharpen the pointy end of the stick. And
Yep.
so just layering in time on feet has no pressure of intensity. We just got to worry about working the volume up, and you'll probably stay healthier that way than if you tried to run a fast 5K in, let's say, May.
Yeah. And you know my athletic history and my tendencies as an athlete. I would jump into speed too quickly because it's my natural wheelhouse, and I'd do something my body's not ready to handle because I could handle it right up until I couldn't. Whereas with an ultra, I'd be so scared of the body breaking down and the cramping and everything that I would holistically approach bulletproofing my lower body. And you know that I would choose a technical broken running ultra, which would require a lot of hiking and a lot of lunges and a lot of body proofing more than it would require metronome miles of running. And
Right.
so it's like half rehab and PT and half endurance training. And it would all combine to make me more whole than speed training for a short little 5K would.
Yep. And it would lay the foundation for a real nice and tall fitness pyramid eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I
Well, I'm
wanted to quick
debating.
get ready for a 5K, I would skip steps that aren't necessary for the time that I have available to me
Mhm.
that would come back to haunt me later. And if I skip a step in an ultra, I will pay for it for the last 10 miles of the race, and so I won't skip that step.
Yeah, it's just most people would hear what you said and be like, "That doesn't make sense," but it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Athlete dependent. Makes sense for me, maybe not for others.
Hey, a side note, I see you have is that the Metaspeed Sky behind you, or is that the
Sky.
so you bought me the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris. I think it was for my birthday.
Birthday or Christmas, one of the two.
It was awfully nice of you. Anyways, really liked the Alpha Fly more, still going to it. Wore the Metaspeed Sky Paris a few times. Wasn't in love with it, but wore it. And suddenly, like, that shoe has just grown on me. Like, every time I run
Mm.
in it, it grows on me. And now I'm finding myself choosing it over other super shoes. It's just really interesting because it's always been love at first fit for me with most every shoe I wear. And this was like a slow burn. And now I it makes sense for my stride now. I don't know how else to describe it, but I've never experienced that with a shoe. You
Hmm.
either like it or you don't out of the gates. And this one I couldn't quite tell because it's firmer than the Alpha. But once I
Yeah.
got comfortable with it, I really like the shoe, man.
Good.
So,
I'm glad to hear
anyways,
that.
I thought I should let you know that now I'm getting good use out of it.
It's a safe, neutral, inoffensive shoe, but it's also a really good one.
Hmm. And then the last thing, and then we'll get into today, is I put a poll up on my Instagram on a post like, "What do you think I should pursue?" And I knew what the answer was going to be from my in quotes friends on there,
Mhm.
and overwhelmingly it was hybrid. And people think it's silly to chase master stuff or sub 15 in the 5K or ultras. They say hybrid, hybrid, hybrid. But I believe that's all out of a selfish curiosity on their end, seeing what would happen. And I feel like the real ones are pushing me to go chase 15 minutes. The ones who like really what go chase 15 minutes and then you can do the other stuff still. It'll be there. I wanted to get your take real quick on that.
From a solely physiological standpoint, if you're so close to the running goal, pivoting away is akin to giving up
Hmm.
because training for hybrid will make you a worse 5K runner. Unfortunately, you're good enough at the 5K now that you will lose some of that by going in on it like high rocks. And then you have
Mhm.
to come back to it and you'll be older and there's no guarantee.
Somebody made the comment like, "Go for the 5K and stop doing them at summertime at bedtime." And I was like, "That's a
Yeah.
really good point. My only legit cracks in the last 2 years have been at 10 PM on a weeknight
Yeah.
in 75 degrees or more." It's like, "Don't be an idiot." And then Jack Bauer messaged me and said, like, "You got to go to the Valentine Invitational at Boston University. I could get in there. It's on Valentine's Day. You can register because I have some verified times on the track, so I can get
Mhm.
in and get seated." And that track is magical. I don't know if you've seen the stuff that happened there this weekend, but the
Mhm.
times being pumped out. Graham Blanks went sub 13 in the 5K. Parker Wolf and Ethan Strand had a great battle in the 3K and broke the NCAA record. Anyways, it'd be cool to run on that track. And then coincidentally, I get an email from my alma mater saying, "Hey, it's alumni weekend, January, whatever. We want you to come and race. You can register for the alumni mile, or you can register to run with the collegiate athletes seated, on an indoor track." And I'm like, "Well, is that my answer? Do I get ready for a January and February 5K indoor push and go do that?" So
Mhm.
that's where I suddenly it sort of gave me clarity putting that poll out there and then hearing some feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're serious about going sub 15, then you go sub 15 the way people who are serious about it do it.
Yeah.
And that is not by running on the hottest day of the year at a time of day that's not conducive to your lifestyle. It's like saying, "Oh, I can't find a good man or a good woman," but you're just going to the same dive bar every night.
There's
Like,
good people at dive
can
bars.
you find a good spouse at a dive bar? Yeah. Is it optimal? No. No, it's not.
Where would you go to find a good spouse?
I don't know. I found one. A
No,
track
no,
meet.
no. Entertain me. Where would you go? Like the produce section at the grocery store? Like,
Something fitness related.
oh, fitness related. That
Could
makes
be
sense.
spin class, could be a running group, it could be a track meet. I don't know. I don't need to,
Just
but I found my wife at a track meet.
go start taking core power yoga sculpt.
Yeah. In fact,
Start there.
yesterday, Kirk, was,
Mhm.
17 years from the day that I met Lisa at a track meet.
Gosh, that dates you pretty fast is what that's all I can think. 17 years ago, huh?
Kinda crazy.
Yeah. Um, I had one more addition. What was it to our conversation? Oh, and then let's get into our topic. I had thought when I had seen these twilight races, like back in college, the last chance meets that we ran in the spring were like, hey, we're going to run at 8 or 9 o'clock at night under the lights.
Mhm.
And it didn't get any better than that. Like, you could not wait for a last chance under the lights meet. That was your best chance at running fast as a 20-year-old. Now that I'm 40 and life rhythms and my alarms and everything it's so different. So going into these twilight races that happen at 10 p.m., I'm like, prime time, baby. Like
Yeah.
that's how we were wired, right? And now that I've done a few of them, I'm like, no, Kirk needs to wake up, have breakfast and a cup of coffee, and get to a start line. He can't be racing at 10 p.m. You know what I mean? Like, because our minds are wired a little differently from the college days, and that's still there, sort of.
Yeah, and even that, it'd be a different running a twilight meet in May than August.
That's true.
May is it's gonna get dark a little earlier, and it's not gonna be a heat index of the surface of the sun. I think you can withstand one variable instead of PR. You get one.
Wind, heat, time of
Wind,
day.
heat, time of day, yeah. You can't have them all. You just can't. So your race is always a good start, and then it needs a "and then so what?" And there's never been a "and then so what?" And I love hybrid sports, and I'm also confident that if you go all in on it, you're putting all your other goals on hold.
Hmm. Maybe not ultra, but we can move on from
I
the
even that I
conversation.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
Hyrox has gotten so good that you have to be so dialed now.
yeah, I agree with you.
So I'm on
100%.
team don't leave the fast running until you have exhausted that goal.
Okay.
It's
Good
too
to hear.
finite.
Good to hear. All right. I didn't expect that to be as long as it was, but let's talk about the topic at hand. So I brought up talking about this today, and it seems like, and maybe it's the time of year, maybe it's just coincidence with where some athletes are at, but I hate running, or running isn't coming as easy as it should, or should it be this hard, or like, how do people seem to on Instagram or just love their running, taking a selfie, and like everything is great? That's not what it is for me. I mean, we should talk about that. Like, it
Mhm.
isn't all just rainbows and butterflies and love, love, love. There's a good bit of hate in there too. And I think we should try to normalize that in today's conversation instead of people feeling like losers at home when they don't wanna. So that's what I thought we should talk about today.
We should. And why I started to frame it by if you haven't done other things like this in the past, you don't have a good frame of reference for how to view a passion or a hobby or a sport like this. Because very few things in life go well all the time and are enjoyable all the time, but many hobbies are. Many hobbies are
Mm,
enjoyable the vast majority of the time, but most hobbies don't hurt. Most hobbies aren't super uncomfortable. And running combines exercising and sport and hobby, and that's
mm,
tough for people. And so running is confusing for people because they look at it as one of the other things. They look at it
mm,
as exercising, but it's way more invigorating or rewarding than that. Or they look at it as hobby, but it's way more miserable than that. And they look at it as sport, but it's not as serious as that for some people, but you get caught up in it. So it brings all these conflicting emotions into it, and understanding how do I need to look at running and what is considered success or healthy in my relationship with running is important.
you summed that up very well.
Thank you, Kirk.
So what do you think, so I had this conversation with a few athletes recently, like, what do you think, like, if you're gonna put a dot right in the middle of all case subject studies, people work with, like, what do you think a normal relationship with running should look like? Like, your emotionally, is there such?
No, no, it's like saying, what's the normal marriage look like or a normal romantic relationship? It is so dependent on the person. And I have a very skewed view of it because started running with racing. The first run I ever went on was a race at the Badger State Games.
Hmm.
And from the start, that was it.
I did that.
I became a running racer. I
Hmm.
ran to race. And so my relationship with it was complicated. And then college puts a weird perspective on running. It's not always healthy. And then post collegiate, I pursued trying to run to feed my family. And that changes the relationship. So I think I have a very skewed sense of what a normal, healthy relationship is anyway. And then I look at my own wife, and she has a 180 from me experience with running. Incredibly different. And I don't think hers is normal either. So I can't even begin to tell you what a normal running relationship looks like.
Maybe that's the answer right there.
Do you
We
have a
build
do
up
you have a better
this
answer?
we build up this idea of what we believe running to be based on fluff that we typically consume on the internet, and people generally exaggerate one end or the other. Smiling, running selfies. I'm spreading joy in the world by running my Twinkle Toes 5K every weekend in my tutu, and life is great. And then you have others who go so far on the other end, show a photo of themselves face down in the dirt. I hated today and I sucked. And you have very little balance in the middle. Often, I feel like, from influencer types, which whether you feel like you can be influenced or not, I think what you're seeing isn't probably n- even close to what you're feeling or experiencing, at least
Yeah.
from stuff that gets put in front of me. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know if there is normal. That's a very good point. I think starting more simply with the conversation, physically or emotionally, I don't care which you want to look at or what lens you want to look at this through. I think it is normal, if we're going to try to define, for multiple, if not the majority of the days where you put your running shoes on, you don't wanna and or you don't feel good. Okay? And I think for half or fewer, you wanna, you're craving it, and you're ready to work hard, and it's a good day. But to think that first off, out of the gates, every day has to be a good day, every day you wanna, and every day you feel relatively good is a pipe dream. So, first of all, that's my experience with working with people and myself. Um, I'm going to say, if I'm being accurate, just me, say I run 6 days a week, two of them, it's the last thing I want to do, and I would rather put my finger in a pencil sharpener. The other 2 days, I'm apathetic about it at best, but it sounds like, okay, I can, like, this isn't going to drain me emotionally to go get it done. And then 2 days, I'm like a racehorse stuck and ready to go. And I think it's probably two, two, and two.
Hmm.
So if I'm going to try to just speak through my lens, and I would consider myself a high performer, that's our career, it's our careers, I'm still a third don't want to hate it, a third apathetic, and a third rearing, chomping at the bit to go.
That seems honest.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I consider myself someone who fell in love with running, the act of running, very late in my running journey, but I always enjoyed it. And it's a weird combination where I would not look forward to it for a long time, but once I was out there doing it, I'm like, yeah, this is fun. Because I
Hmm.
had teams. It was fun to spend time with people and do that thing. And I was always decent enough at it that it wasn't a grind most of the time. So, but anyway, that all changed when I fell in love with it, and then I started looking forward to it. So I would say I look forward to running at least 75% of my runs,
It's great.
but I feel really good on maybe 25% of my runs.
That sounds about right.
I enjoy well over half of my runs, but I would say I look forward to more runs than I enjoy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I
Which
also think that's accurate.
And I think that wouldn't make sense to a lot of people. Like, I look forward to a run that I know isn't going to go well or feel particularly good. And that's because I still, even if I don't race much anymore, I look at running as training for an event. And so I look forward to checking boxes. And there's going to be a really crappy recovery run. I'm going to be beat up. I look forward to being able to get an hour in and check that box. So I look forward to it, even if it's not an inherently enjoyable experience.
Hmm.
And that is a weird hobby. when you describe it that way.
Yeah. I think if you break it down further, for example, speaking for myself, and then I'll put this on you. It's like sometimes your schedule is conducive to the perfect storm, not storm situation. Meaning, I can get up, I can do my morning routine, I can get out the door on my terms, and it feels right, and I'm ready to go. On the other hand, on days you have early work, it's a busy day, your morning coffee has thoroughly worn off, it's 2 in the afternoon, you're hitting your midday doldrum, but it's the only time you have to wedge it in. For me, it works that way sometimes because of the nature of my work. And then I go out and I'm like, all I want to do is take a nap or anything. I'm so tired. And you put it on and you just start going. That would be the instance in which the timing is poor. You have a kid's soccer game and tournament and all Saturday morning, and your time to go is 7 p.m. after you've done a whole day of things. But and you do it and you don't want to do it, but you do it. Do you get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I think it's
Yeah.
almost circumstantial. And then I also think, and this is not me projecting on you whatsoever, so don't take it this way. But when I am in really good training cycles, I swing hard on hard days. I recover on recovery days. Ian Hosick, don't you dare bring anything up about that again. I have days where I'm tired. Like I'm just like, I have good days and the days in between are tough. I have big swings and the days in between don't always feel great. So I also think like if I'm just like exercising, I have a lot more looking forward to it. Let's go do it. But when I'm training, I feel like I ebb and flow more with the anticipation.
Hmm. And I would say I'm the opposite. When I'm exercising, I don't really get a lot out of it. I don't really look forward to any one particular run. Sometimes I'll look forward to a place. Like, oh, I want to go run this trail today. And then that's
Mhm.
cool. But when I have segmented weeks where I have purposeful interval work or a tempo run or a long run, I look forward to those sessions no matter how miserable I may believe they're going to be. I find
Mhm.
myself anticipating it. It's an
Same.
enjoyable process. Some people dread that. Like if I know there's something awful coming up, a workout that's just going to be terrible, I look forward to that.
Mhm.
It's a positive feeling for me, not a negative one. And then because the in between days are a means to get to the next one, I look forward to that process. And so I end up looking forward to almost, like I said before, like 3/4 of my days because there's a heading for each day. And the heading excites me, even if
Mhm.
the run itself doesn't excite me. So I think the more I have purpose to my training, and maybe the more intense it is, the more I look forward to every run. And the less I have purpose, the less I look forward to every run.
Makes sense. You're using the term "look forward to," and I'm using different verbiage because I do
Mm,
look forward to most every. I mean, I would say 75% or more look forward to. I can look forward to it and still not wanna. I can look forward to it and get
mm,
out there and be like, "I hate this today. My legs are so tired. I wanna cut it at 3, but I gotta go 8." Like, I feel like those things can still happen. I'm often, and I think I have a very healthy. I truly love running and what it does for me and how it propels me only in positive directions for the most part. But it's just easy to romanticize it when it's not like that when you get granular with it. It has to be fought for just like a relationship. It has to be worked towards. Not all days are going to be cuddles and kisses, right? Like you're going to have some hard times in the relationship, and that is normal. And it makes the good times even better, right? When
mhm,
the sluggish run on a Friday, thinking my legs are so tired, and then you go out for your Saturday long run and they're back, makes it that much more appreciated. So it's just an interesting, you're right, hobby, sport, pastime,
mhm.
endeavor that we've chosen because of
So
all
I'll
those
tell you
things.
when I've enjoyed running the least. And that was when the least enjoyable running I've ever had in my life were summers in high school and college, and then the first year out, because I would lose fitness, and then look at the calendar and go, "Oh shoot, I've got blank number of weeks before the season starts back up. I've got to build some I've got to get back into this." And I did not approach my running differently. I would go right out and I would run. I wouldn't dawdle, I wouldn't scale things, I would just get back into it and suffer and take it until it was back. And that was always so miserable the entire run. All my summer run memories are misery. I was just being too hot and hurting the whole run, feeling like my stride's crap and everything hurts because
Mhm.
I was running too hard. And so as soon as I started modulating runs, call them quality days and easier recovery days, as soon as I started doing that, I have never not enjoyed training ever again since that point. I may have had my motivation ebb and flow, but I've never not enjoyed the process as soon as I stopped running too hard on a daily
Mhm.
basis.
I could see that. That may be a number of people's listening's problems right there.
Mhm.
And also people who seem to cram workouts in, like, I only got 45 minutes. It's like as soon as you leave the door, you hit the panic button and you just zoom out because you're in a time crunch. You ever find the busy people cram it in over your lunch hour or get it in while the kids are at practice or whatever? It's like for some reason that just hits the little panic button right away. And then you go out too fast, too hard because you're cramming it in. I think that happens to people as well.
It's less fun. You can still be
Mhm.
effective training, but it kills some of the love for it.
So, okay. I'm debating on which direction we want to go with this from here. I think I want to help most people feel like what is we define like there's probably not a normal relationship with running, I guess, so to speak, like a one size fits all. But like what does a healthy relationship with running look like? I think is what
Mm,
I'm really trying to get at.
okay.
Healthy. Is my relationship with running healthy?
I'm gonna poison my own well here, Kirk.
Oh gosh. Okay.
There and I think people would say this about relationships as well with humans, that a healthy relationship is not dependent upon that relationship for happiness. But it doesn't mean that's the best relationship for you. For example, my own relationship with my wife would probably not be considered healthy. We're probably a little too obsessed with each other. We don't spend a lot of time with people outside of each other. Our lives would be notably worse if we weren't together. That we are more together than we are apart, I would say. And people would say that's not totally healthy because then you start relying on that person to keep you stable or sane
Mhm.
or level. But it makes us better and us makes us happy. And so I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for a healthier relationship. And Lisa's relationship with running, I wouldn't call a healthy one. She's not herself without it. I wouldn't say you have a healthy relationship with running. You're worse without running.
Mhm.
Lisa is worse without running. It's like someone's, peed in her cereal if she doesn't run that day. She's on edge the whole day. She's off. But it works for her. She loves it so much that she doesn't want to go without it. So it's not the healthiest relationship, but it's not one she would change. So
Getting
that's what I'm
deep
saying.
on
This is a
me.
terrible answer because I'm not clarifying anything other than the fact that when the relationship with anything serves two purposes, then it confuses things.
Yeah, but you could dive so deep and be like, well, if I don't take my Adderall, my high prescription Adderall today, I am notably less happy and productive and don't feel well. So it makes me a better person taking my
Mhm,
high dose Adderall, let's say, so I'm better. Or it could be which is a fine line. And I know a number of people who are very much addicted and have multiple prescriptions to Adderall, and it ruins their life at a certain point. So
mhm,
that's actually the extreme end. And the other end is, well, I brush my teeth in the morning and I feel better when I brush my teeth in the morning. And now I can go about my day without it bothering me the rest of the day. And that can
mhm,
be simply harmless and a healthy thing to do. Makes me a better person to brush my teeth in the morning.
mhm.
So it can be as fluffy as that, or it can be as weighty as an addiction,
Okay.
a chemical addiction.
That is a fair point. So I guess my definition, and then
I'm not arguing against what you said at all, by the way.
no, it's good in clarifying.
We're in the same boat, but you
We
can
have to
look at
draw a
it through
line
different lenses.
somewhere.
Correct.
Just because you can't exist without something doesn't make it inherently good or bad.
Yeah, sure.
So here's my line. When that thing takes more from you than it gives you, it's not healthy.
How do you know?
When that thing affects everything around you other than itself negatively, then it's not healthy. So if you need running to be a positive person every day, that's not a bad unhealthy. If you need running to be a positive person and it takes your time away from your friends and your kids and you can't talk about anything but running and it always depresses you when you can't hit your times or it leaves you broken all the time, that is a negative unhealthy. So when it gives you more than it takes from you, when it's a greater positive than it is a negative, and I think in running that shows up with your relationships outside of running. That's my line.
So the quality of your life and relationships outside of running may be actually indicative of the quality of your relationship with running?
Yes. Not the power of your relationship with running, but the quality of it.
The quality of it. That's
You asked me before this call, aren't you already feeling better just across the board now that you're training again? And the answer was yes.
correct. Yeah.
If I got to training again and got obsessed with it, and now I was crabby in meetings or family meals because I'd rather be running or thinking about running, that's not adding to my life.
Um so well, I want to go two directions with this. First, I'll just talk about myself. For me, as long as it is within my week, within regularity, I need that anxiety release for me to feel much better. And me getting a sweat and a high heart rate and a cadence and a rhythmic motion is calming, right? I don't need it every day. And I think you're probably exaggerating about Lisa not being herself or being on edge if she can't get out every day. But if I can get a majority of hits, like more days than not, that might bleed into my tomorrow as well. Like, okay, I got in yesterday. That's the hit I needed.
Mhm.
And so could you call that like some form of addiction? Of course, because I definitely need it and want it. If not, I'd seek it out in something else, the bike, the assault bike, the strength. Like I need that hit. Um, but I don't think my happiness is dependent on it because I'm certainly happy not to be doing it at times. And we just talked about this, Bracken, before we hit record, how easy it was for you to fall out of sync with working out and training when you were focused on Braden's karting and injured. And what did you say before we hit record? It was scary
Yeah.
because
It's too easy. It's too slippery.
and you were content to not do it as well.
Mhm.
So we can recalibrate our homeostasis eventually, I believe, with anything. And you did that with your working out and training. I mean, you seem like the same guy for the most part, even though you didn't work out for 2 weeks. Was that a facade?
No, that's real.
Right.
Anything you do or don't do from your routine seeps in the rest of your life. But I've never been someone who the act of exercising is what keeps me stable or keeps me on the level. For
Sure.
me, the act of competing or pursuing a competition was where I found identity.
Hmm.
And over the years, that has re as you call like found a new homeostasis is that was kind of taken from me for a bit. So when I got away from it this time, I'd already stopped competing consistently. So the piece I was worried about being an issue wasn't an issue. I just got in worse shape and didn't like myself as much, but I was like perfectly happy in life and I was fine with my relationships with people because I don't need exercising to be like steady emotionally.
Yeah.
But I'm better with it. If that makes sense.
Sometimes the best, like what is it? If we talk relationships, distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? Like time away
Mhm.
can bring you back to somebody or that person or detachment. I think often with running, it can be that way. Again, it's a slippery slope because people then it's 20 years later and they blink and they're fat, out of shape, and unhappy with themselves for letting it go.
Mhm.
But I think sometimes stepping away, you can return back to it in its purest form. because there isn't a dependency
Yeah.
on it anymore. And so sometimes injuries or time away because you just can't make yourself do it, or life circumstances, yes, they're going to set your fitness back without a doubt. Like objectively, physiologically, you are going to be worse. But sometimes when you circle back, it can be like you open a blank page again, and it can be almost a good thing for an emotional relationship with it, which is an interesting thing to think about.
Well, just like you talked about, distance makes the heart grow fonder. You'll often hear people say, I was reminded why I fell in love with them in the first place. And
Yep.
I think we forget that in running. I've talked about this several times in this most recent injury time off because I took the most time off I've ever taken from running. And I went through everything and I started making my list of what do I really like doing? What do I really respond to? And it was kind of like reminding myself why I fell in love with it in the first place. We get so into a task that we try to learn everything there is about that task. And then we get caught up in how to optimize that task. And pretty soon we're following the directions of 10 different people online and in podcasts or on Reddit. And we are pursuing other people's version of our passion. And
Hmm.
it's good to be reminded, why did I fall in love with this in the first place? I love running fast. I love the act of running quickly. I love woods and hills and trails. And if I distill it back down to that, I'm going to enjoy the vast majority of my runs. I
Hmm.
don't enjoy this, but I do it because other people have said it's important to do in running. But why did I fall in love with running? Did I fall in love with running because I wanted to be an Olympian or to maximize my talent? Or did I
Hmm.
fall in love with running because it was fun to run fast and feel tired running up a hill? And I think getting back to the roots of your relationship is probably the quickest way to make sure that your relationship stays centered and healthy.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I bet you the reasons for like it sticking it could be very different for everybody.
Mhm.
My beginning of my journey, it was just like it wasn't a self-identifier. It was I got noticed for the first time in my life because I could just run faster than other people, and suddenly I became somebody in my own eyes anyways. And it was an identifier, even though like racing hurt and I would have that little bit of dread sometimes, or practice was I looked forward to it, but not all the time.
Mhm.
But it was such so different than the common person's beginning. Like somebody starts because they feel chubby, or somebody starts because their doctor told them to, or somebody starts
Mhm.
because their friend convinced them to. So I think we find it in different ways, and that just the inception of it is like
Yeah, but there's running's not necessarily love at first sight. There's how you find it and there's how you fall in love with it.
true.
And I didn't fall in love with running, truly fall in love with it until maybe my last year of college and for sure my second year out of college. Somewhere in that time is when I started really courting running rather
Mm,
than just dating it socially, if that makes
mhm,
sense. I fell in love with it for different reasons than I started it, for sure. And figuring out what have I grown to love about this and then program your life around that. I don't run roads anymore. I just don't unless I'm running with Lisa or I'm doing a certain quality session because that's the only way I enjoy it. That was a way to keep more of that 70, stay up above 75% of looking forward to my runs. I found that the surface I'm running on entirely dictates how much I look towards the run.
mhm. Um, yeah, I don't think is there such a thing as love at first run? I have to imagine the first run is largely a miserable experience for people, especially adult onset. There can't be
Yeah.
anything that's immediate gratification with that. You get done with that and be like, "Oh my god, I'm in love with it." It's like, "Oh my god, I feel so bad and I feel so bad about myself and I am so out of shape." Then it's just I think stubbornness or habit or routine or coercing that eventually gets you to a point in which you can even establish some sort of L word, like even, I mean, like at first run, I don't even think that would happen for most people.
No.
It's generally a miserable experience. Yeah. If you're not prepared for it.
The only
So,
thing people ever identify about their first run is what they felt afterwards.
mhm.
Almost no one runs their first run and be like, oh, this feels great. Like, no, you might get one block of that. And then running sucks.
Mhm. I always remember like, You take like, I don't know, a month off in the summer in high school before you'd like start running. Like I'll take June off and I'll start running in July and August or something. Like we take like longer than a week off back then. That's all I remember.
Mhm.
And you would feel so good for the first 2 blocks of that first run back. Like you were light and fluddle and prancing and the world was yours. And by the end of the 4th block, you're already like, oh my God, I want to stop. And it
Mhm.
happens like that. That's how a lot of first runs go. Invigorating and then piano on your back. And then it just stays there until you earn the right for it to not feel like that anymore. Um, the other direction I want to take this conversation, um, we all have heroes. You can be your own hero, whatever, tough guy. But we admire things about other people. We look to the pros. We have access to them now. Olympians, collegians, uh, professionals. I consume a lot of that content, and it's my algorithm is dialed now. I get fed it all, right? And gosh, is it inspiring? And even though these guys are half my age, there's some sort of admiration there, right? The collegiates, for example. Um, where do you think, like, the best of our sport? Do you think it's left and right field for them as it is for an average everyday runner human? Do you think some truly have a what you would call a healthy relationship with it, and then some are so sickened by it? It could be both camps, or do you think they veer one way or the other a little bit more in the pro circuit?
I think the further you get towards the top of any pile, the less healthy and balanced that pursuit becomes. I think, and the greater the negatives become. I think that pro runners are as miserable as anyone across the board. There are some people like Meb Keflezighi always seemed to truly love running. And I don't know if he just got there in his latter years because I didn't know him as well as a fan early on,
Mhm.
but some people just seem different. Like they just love the process, the task, the highs, the lows, but more often than not, I think the pros have a more unhealthy relationship with running than anyone.
Well, you look at somebody like a Courtney DeWalter, okay, and you see basketball shorts and smiles,
Mm,
and donuts and grins, and she's had some harder times she's opened up about, but you talk about skipping through life. Is any of that real? Is that am I a loser because I don't feel that way all the time because I can't be as positive as Courtney DeWalter? Or is it the same thing that Hunter McIntyre has going on where he has to bang his chest like an ape in order to get himself there and stay in a good place? Does Courtney DeWalter have to smile through everything because it's her fix? You know,
yeah.
I always wonder about those things.
I believe as much as we can with someone we don't know that she's pretty genuine because
Yeah,
we've seen her puking during a 250-mile race and then smile at the camera and start shuffling along again. Like you really can't fake it 30 hours in
it's
after
true.
you vomited. You can't. That's kind of just who you are comes out. So I believe that there is that. But I also believe that we can't look to the pros to measure ourselves. We can look to their desirable attributes like hers and say, I need to be a little bit more like that. But I think the more successful someone is, the less relatable they are. So you take their good points and don't read too far into anything else. But she's a great example of that might just be someone who was put on this earth to enjoy the act of running and suffering.
Yeah, you think like, okay, you guys listening at home, like, do you have a healthy relationship with your work and your job? Is it all butterflies and rainbows, or is it a source of stress, discomfort, anger, frustration, dread at
Mhm.
times? Well, maybe some of us are lucky. Like, we both have great jobs. I love my job 95% of the time, probably
Yeah.
more than most. But then you have to look at that version of a pro runner and think, okay, well, if your job at home, whether you're in manufacturing or a nurse or whatever, less glorious, let's say, there's turmoils there. When your performance is tied to your success and ability to make a paycheck, I would say this is speculation, but I don't see how it wouldn't be true that you listening most likely have a more balanced and even relationship with the pastime than those we look at on screen.
Yeah.
I would think.
Well, it's also a good question to ask yourself about other areas of your life is how often do I enjoy the thing I'm doing? Like really look forward to it. Very few things do we constantly look forward to. Like that ebb and flow is natural. And
Yep.
then going back to the pro runner or the influencer or whoever, I think we need to be very careful in life to not assume that we're not, or to assume that we're not being influenced. The world is full of the Instagram, the social media influencer. And any runner who's posting their content is an influencer, whether they identify as such or not. But just because you're not buying the thing they're selling does not mean you're not being influenced.
Mhm.
They may not be making a dime off you, but they are changing the way you perceive whatever your life is related to theirs. And if that's watching someone run effortlessly and joyfully, and then you go out and feel crappy and slow, you were influenced by watching that. And if you're watching someone talk about a certain style of running that you can't stand, and then it makes you feel worse about yours, like that influenced you. There's a whole mess of influencing that can happen. And it happens to everyone. No one's immune to being influenced by their environment. And so
Mhm.
part of loving your running is watching the right type of running media. And part of loving your running is staying away from the type of media that negatively influences your running. Clicking a link is only a small percentage of what influencing really is.
Mhm. Just get a lot of it thrown at us, whether you consume social media, or you watch TV, or you at least follow our pastime on YouTube once in a while, or you're on the
Yeah.
treadmill, like, you're getting it. Um,
Can I follow up on that actually?
Please.
I had a consult with an athlete a couple months ago, and they said something like, and I know you said that like the difference between exercising and training is when you're training towards a goal or whatever, but my goal isn't a race. And I just, I know I'm not really training towards anything. And as I'm hearing this, I felt terribly guilty because I put a label on something according to my definition, and it influenced the way they perceive their own running relationship. And they were trying to like say, I know, I understand. I'm not a real runner. I'm not really training. I'm just an exercise. It's like, no, 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 no. I'm sorry, but don't let me influence the way you perceive your running. Like we do it constantly. There's so many ways you can negatively affect your own relationship with your running. And a lot of them come from places that aren't even trying to negatively influence you. So understanding what you love about it and what negatively influences you is really important for your running. It really is.
I know this is gonna make you cringe, but, uh, you're a bigger influencer than most anybody
Yeah.
in the space. Just because you're not posting shirtless selfies on Instagram, our goal of starting this podcast was to influence people.
Hmm.
So, if we're speaking of it in a negative or positive light, we are the source and or the problem and or the solution.
Yeah.
So we're not immune. We're not looking at this like influencer, like be careful. Like, yeah, we are those people as well.
Yeah.
So, um, what about the conversation? I just think there's like little. I know this is sort of like a. I don't know if this is going to be like a serious or a fluffy conversation, depending on how people like take this whole episode, right? Because it's very subjective, right? We're not teaching you how to improve your lactate threshold here. Um, the whole I don't like vegetables, but I eat my vegetables, and I feel better after I eat my vegetables versus not. I don't want to run. I don't really enjoy it that much, but I feel better afterwards, and I know I'm better for it.
Hmm.
But largely, there is a disdain for it. Majorly, maybe it's not all, but let's say the 75% that you look forward to, they don't look forward to. But we know it makes you better and healthier, and you afterwards, you're like, God, I'm so glad I did that, even though you didn't wanna at all. Is that where does that fall in this category?
That's perfect.
That's perfect?
Yeah. Yeah. If running is your vegetable, great. You don't ever have to love it. But if it keeps you healthy, great. That's perfect. But then you start looking at it the way you look at vegetables. Like maybe you get yours through smoothies. What's the running version of a smoothie for you? Maybe you get yours by these type of vegetables. If I saute them and surround them with meat, I really like how they pair together. Not everyone has to go out for an hour run in the sun on a pavement. Not everyone has to go to the track. You might be on your Nordic track on iFit watching someone run through Mallorca. That might be your way because you love travel. It might be that you love lifting, that's your meat, but you got to have some veggies, and you get on 10 minutes before, 10 minutes during, and 10 minutes after each lift and just jog uphill a little bit in between your big lift session. That might be the way you saute your chicken and your peppers together. It might be that you really don't like running, but you like sprinting. What's the lowest form of sprinting that you can do sustainably, and do that 2 or 3 times a week? And suddenly these veggies aren't that bad. I think that's how you approach it.
I like that analogy. I'm afraid we're getting too fluffy.
Running's fluffy. It's not that serious. As much
Well,
as it's serious to us, it's not supposed to be that serious.
I know I'm on board with literally everything you said and are saying. And what I'm saying is I'm worried we're getting a little too fluffy, too easy on people, let's say. Because the veggie and steak sautéers aren't listening to this podcast most likely. Like the ones who like care a lot about their performance and strive to be better and do talk about running a lot,
Mhm,
and it does come at sacrifice to their relationships at times, and it's an emotional roller coaster at times. They're spending the time listening to us two yahoos talk about running. They probably invested more than the I'm going to do some running in between my strength exercises, right?
mhm,
And so like for the person who like has A races on the calendar and travels across country or yet whatever it is, has true performance goals, is there any other avenues to explore with the healthy relationship for those people? Because that's who's listening, I would think.
well, should I just go the opposite direction and go back to our theme of our last Q&A and just give tough love and piss people off?
Yes. But you understand why
I
I'm trying
do.
to bring it through this light, just
Yeah.
because the nature of our audience.
I loved teaching and I hated paperwork, but I wasn't allowed to teach special education without doing the paperwork for each kid in the class. You don't have to love the piddly stuff. You don't have to love the prerequisites. If you love training, I mean, if you love racing ultras, maybe you just got to suck it up and train. And then it makes the reward that better. Like, there is a line where all the fluffy things we can say are fine, but you still have to do it when you don't want to. And you can dress up your training schedule as fancy as you want so that it's always sauteed chicken and peppers and everything is exactly seasoned how you want. But there's a day you look at it and you just don't want it. Then you get back
Mm.
to Kirk's thing, which is, are you disciplined or not? Like, this isn't just a hobby. It's too multifaceted. So suck it up and get it done so you can go do the thing you like to do well.
I just think if you're in love with it all the time, it's not nearly as rewarding as if there's some ups and downs. Bad races with good ones. I don't want to, but I did, and it paid off in my race. I like, things that have meaning have trials along the way. And so I think that's what brings most people back is because they made themselves when they didn't want to. They
Mhm,
had to cross train through an injury and they hated it, or they had to get up at 4 in the morning during the weekdays to get it in when it's the last thing they wanted to do. Like, I think the sticky parts of it are normal. I'm going to say the word normal. And that's
mhm.
why it ends up love or just being satisfied or rewarding. Like, love might not even be the right word for most people listening, but satisfying, accomplishing, rewarding, love, fluffy, maybe. But I think it requires the suck.
Yeah.
How much suck? How much suck? That is subjective. Some people really like to make it suck for themselves. But
Well,
I
and
think it's all
here's
necessary.
well, and here's the secret. Nothing feels better than comparison with something that feels bad.
Mm,
Nothing does. Joy does not feel as good as joy after pain. That's just the way it is. And the same thing goes with love. If you are willing to be uncomfortable for something that you love, the love grows deeper. And anyone with kids out there will get this analogy. Every single time you get up early to work hard at something you don't like doing in order to give something for your kids that you know they need, you end up loving your kids a little bit more.
mhm.
You should resent them for it, but you don't. When you get to that point and it pays off for your kid, you're overwhelmed with love for that. Doesn't make sense, but putting yourself through more turmoil for that love makes the love grow deeper because you're more invested in it and it's more rewarding when it grows. And that's how running is. If you're able to get out and run on the days you don't want to, if you can feel crappy by mile 5 of each run for a whole training block, when you feel good all the way through mile 20 in a race, it is so much more rewarding. That's how it
Invest
grows.
investment's absolutely the right word.
Yeah.
An investment happens through whether you want it or not, like discipline. I didn't wanna, I did. I forced myself to invest. Now I care more. You can use care as the substitute for the word love. I don't really care. You could sign me up for a birdhouse making class. My grandpa started doing that in his older years. Suddenly, a guy after a while really cared about making birdhouses. Why do I still have some around my house? So he invested his time in them,
Right.
cared more and more about something so arbitrary to him years prior, but he invested his time, energy, resources into something, and pretty soon he cared about it. It's as simple as, I mean, you can get as deep with relationships or any pastime as you want, but I think that's the key right there, probably.
So I'm going to try to sum up everything I've said today into like a 2 or 3 bullet point recommendation.
Okay.
First of all, you should try to set up your running, your schedule, your training style, your intensities, your terrain, whatever it is, so that you look forward to the run more often than you don't look forward to the run. Come up with recipes that make you like veggies the most. Do everything on the front end so that you look forward to it more than you don't look forward to it.
Despite if that is a compromise to peak fitness and performance.
Yeah, and if you listen to this podcast, hopefully you're on board with the idea that you don't have to compromise anything by finding a different way of building that fitness. But
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And then the second thing is get it done anyway. Give yourself every chance in the world at getting ahead on the enjoyment factor. And when that doesn't work, take pride in the fact that this is one of the days I just suck it up. I think those are the two things. If you can do both of those two things, that's as close to a healthy relationship with running as you're going to get, in my opinion.
Yeah. So we can or cannot use the word normal. What do you think? It's irrelevant.
Normal only exists in lab settings and lab environments.
Yeah. But it's not atypical to feel great about it or feel bad about it or go back and forth with it, going through periods of really wanting to and high discipline and motivation and less discipline and motivation. In fact, I would argue there's a time and a place for both in a healthy year round approach, right? To long term sustainability. Um, I think I wanted to like make sure like, and you've done a good job of it, probably better than I have, about like just telling people like if it's not perfect, that's like okay. If you're not in love with everything about it, that's normal. Do you like that your wife snores at night? No, but do you love her anyways, right? Or whatever the case may
Mhm.
be. I don't know. I sense that I pick up more of the sunshine side of running when I'm being influenced than the reality of a 4 a.m. alarm on 5 hours sleep where your kid woke up at night and I kind of have a cold and I have an A race in 3 weeks and I'm miserable, but I gotta or I should and I didn't. And I think that's like the reality of it and why it has meaning. And I think that's so common to have a situation like that. Um, I do think it comes easier naturally for some than others. I
Mhm.
think that's going to exist with everything. So you could look on people with envy because it just seems to come easier for them, and maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't mean as much to them either. So I just think there's so many ways you can look at it, but I think it's all normal, and I'm going to say normal for the most part. The only thing I don't think is normal, because I know a few people like this, is when all it does is make them feel bad about themselves because they're so much slower than everybody, or they're comparing constantly to others or their past self.
Mhm.
And they're not what they were, or and it becomes this underlying depression tone because they just aren't good enough. That is a separate conversation in which I do not think that is normal nor healthy. It's okay to be less fit than you were. It's okay to be less fit than others. It's okay to be like, God, I wish I was fitter. It's not okay to allow it to truly affect your underlying psyche and relationship with it, and then becomes a negative sort of connection, which I know others who fall victim to that as well. Not on purpose, but it
Yeah.
happens. That's one thing you got to be a little bit careful about coming back from injury, aging, uh, looking at others, comparing yourself. I think that's, I know some who it seems like all ho hum, but they still do it. Got to be
Yeah.
careful of those folks.
Yeah. You only give it the power of positive. If a run goes great or a race goes great or whatever, great. I'm awesome.
Yeah,
If it doesn't go great, doesn't change who I am. I'm still in good shape. I'm
you
still
got it.
exercising. I still have the health of it. You only give it the power of positive.
Yeah. Unless you gave up out there mentally. You really shat the bed and you just you just couldn't get there. You could beat yourself up over that one a little bit.
Yeah, but only as a runner.
Only as a racer,
Yeah.
runner, only as a runner. Then you go back home and you're the same person, right? Hopefully to everybody else in your life.
We've
You're
had
not
2
the
or 3
problem.
episodes where I've finished it like this, and I'm gonna say it again. The cheater-proof answer to all of this, the
Mhm.
easiest way to enjoy running is run with people as often as you can.
Yeah. To make it less like costly, so to
Yeah,
speak.
across the board. Each run's a little easier to look forward to or to get out the door for when there are people waiting on you, and the run's a little more enjoyable when there's friends to talk to during.
That's it.
It's not realistic for everyone, but if you really don't know what to do to fix a run, run with a friend.
And so few people probably do.
Yeah.
At least regularly. I hardly do. You hardly do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to end this on like a negative note. So let's, I mean, really the message is largely positive, right?
Congrats. Running hates us all. Right? So it frowns on all of our goals. It smirks at all of us. So like if anything's normal, that's normal. Running's gonna just keep kicking you down and we keep showing up like a little puppy because we love our master.
It's a
We're all in the
cheeky
same boat.
fella. It's very rewarding when we get our treat, though. Very rewarding.
Yes, it
Holy
is.
smokes. I'll wag my tail all day. All
Yeah.
right. Do we have anything else we got to add to this thing, or did we jumble it up real good and we can go home now?
I do have a request of the running public, and that is a
Yeah.
little bit of feedback here. Around this time each year, we either do or don't do a holiday gift buying training Tuesday.
Mm,
If you want that, we've done it in the past. If you want that, tell us. We'll do it next week so you have time
not
for
much
last
time.
minute gifts. If you don't need that, if that's redundant, if everyone's doing it this time of year and you just don't need us for that, speak with silence or with a hearty no.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah. We were kind of late to that one. Usually we do that, I think, earlier in the month, like this week.
Yeah. I would say it's the downside of the podcast world and the social influencer running world taking off so big is that everyone and their mom is doing shoe recommendations and gear recommendations and holiday gift buying guide and the best blank products of 2024. So I didn't feel the pressing need to get it done this year. But if people really want it, we can sneak it in.
Sweet. Sounds good. Well, your relationship with running is unique to you, and I hope you cherish it. And we will see you later this week, folks.
Treat it well, it'll treat you well.
That's right.